Hi, my name's Christopher Dave Mitchell. I'm a coach, and today is going to be a special episode because I'm talking about my ayahuasca trip experience. So honestly, strap your seatbelts in for this episode because it was a crazy experience I had, full of the highest euphorias and sometimes moments that felt like hell. So I'm going to be talking about my experience, but just for reference, at points it was something like this. Okay, so full disclaimer before we start. It was a very private experience that I did on an ayahuasca retreat. So I'm not going to be mentioning any names about who was on there, who the shaman leader was, where it was at, etc., etc. And also, I would just say that, be responsible. It goes without saying that, don't do one of these retreats unless you really do your research. So be fully responsible as an adult. Do lots of research to see if something like this is right for you. I'd personally been researching it for a long time, and I felt very comfortable with the group I did it with. So yeah, do your research, take responsibility, but let's get into it. And we did 2 separate nights with different strains of ayahuasca, so it was a completely different experience, which we'll come to in a sec, which I didn't expect. So let's run you through the first night and what happened. We all gathered in a really nice circle as a nice community and group, and we took the ayahuasca. It tasted really strange. It was almost like a very bitter, licoricey type, strange, thick, licoricey type taste to me personally. But anyway, just a small cup of it, and and then nothing happened for 20 minutes, felt fine, sat there, and then suddenly the visions started coming. And let me tell you, I'd heard about some of these visions, like the ones I showed you earlier, but I heard that they came when it was quite an intense trip. But I was like 25 minutes in, and these really intense visions were coming on, and I was just like, holy shit, like I was just like, this is gonna be rough, because like if we're this far in and I'm 25 minutes in and I'm already just this deep, like I knew it was only going to kick in worse. So like it was pretty intense, but it was amazing. It was like a beautiful colors, beautiful shapes. It was like a euphoria at this point, and I was almost just laughing and giggling to myself because I just was blown away by just how amazing the colors and the beauty was in the shapes. Now, there was no meaning behind it at this point. This actually came a bit later. So at first it's just a hit that comes on fairly quickly. It did for me. Yeah, just the visions and shapes and beauty and golds and reds and blues and just beautiful shapes like intertwining into other shapes. And I was just enjoying this. There was no meaning in it, like I say, but it was just one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen, to be honest with you. Then after this, what happened is the visions that didn't really mean anything, they were just beautiful shapes and patterns, started to like creep out into something that meant something to me. So it like maybe started to creep out into, like there was a shape that creeped out into someone that I knew, or there was a shape that creeped out into something that was on my mind, or because I'm quite into my music, there was a shape that went out into a music note. So I started being aware that it was sneaking out into things individual to me. And that's one thing that like everyone says about ayahuasca is there's no one experience, there's no one thing. What it does is, to me, it taps into your own individual psyche and shows you what's happening deep underneath there in the subconscious sort of thing, for better or for worse sometimes. But so the shapes started going into things that I knew I was thinking about. And this could be anything on my mind, but like that deep subconscious stuff that's like sitting on your mind, but you're not maybe aware of it like all the time when you're walking around in everyday life. That stuff started creeping in out of the shapes, which was pretty crazy. And then at one point, there was these brilliant musicians who were singing and playing beautiful music. And the music was unbelievable because I'm very, music orientated. I'm very into my sort of I'm very into my senses with my listening. The music, when someone was singing like 3 meters away from me, felt like they were right here. And it was a beautiful moment where some of the songs were so beautiful, but like, it felt like they were singing exactly to you. And then this heightened, and then what it was like I had headphones on. I didn't have headphones on, but it was like I had headphones on, I remember, and the music that, a female singer was singing over there somewhere was literally like in my ears as if I had really loud headphones on, and it was like pumping away. That was weird. And then the next step of this like music aspect was that she was singing the song over there, this lady, and I was singing along to her in like 4-part harmony, but I wasn't actually singing, but in these headphones that's coming into my ears. So I'm listening, I'm just sitting there, obviously with no headphones on, and I'm not singing at this point. And I'm hearing her come through these imaginary headphones that are right in my ears, and I hear her voice and my own voice in harmony. It was absolutely mental. And what the beautiful thing was that every word she was singing meant something to me. Every word she was singing, then, like, I was telling myself a story about that. Like, every sentence, like, then related into, like, a meaningful thing about my own life, sort of thing. So, maybe it is a psychedelic, but I think it, the point is, at this point I was starting to make meaning out of what was happening. I was starting to make meaning out of everything that was being said and being heard. Following on from this, the meaning became deeper. So now the visions had gone a bit, the beautiful visions, and it was more like, then it transferred nearly completely to about what it meant to me and what it meant for me. So suddenly all the visions were things that were real things in my life, like real people, real events that had happened in my life. And, I've had a lot of past trauma with my health operations, and actually there was nothing really bad came up for me. I was prepared for that, but it was all really beautiful. The meaning at this moment for me was just that everything was perfect. Everything was beautiful, and everything was meant to be, to the point where someone was being sick across the way from me, and they call that purging, which is a nice release sort of thing, because it gets rid of all that stuff that you don't need. So it's actually quite healing to do, apparently. But anyway, even as she was being sick, I was just sitting there just like smiling, like, it's perfect. Like, it's meant to be, because she has to go through that, and then once she does, she's going to be in a better place. So there was like this meaning that everything belonged, everything was meant to be, everything was perfect, everything was in harmony, everything was together. All that stuff was going on at this point. But of course, it didn't last. And wait till we get to the second night, because like I say, that was very different on the second night. It wasn't euphoria at all. But anyway, this moment was just beautiful in the meaning of it all. And then that sort of continued. I was then singing along a bit naturally, probably sounding out of tune. But I was in the moment. We felt together with everyone. I was laughing and giggling a bit, and I was starting to see things in my future a little bit. I wasn't really seeing the past stuff. I was starting to mainly see where I was going in my future and sort of a higher reason for me being here. So that was a beautiful moment. The only bad point I had on the first night was a weird sort of experience, but it wasn't bad. It was actually still good, but it was a bit on the edgy side. It wasn't all fun. Was that I started really feeling into my body, and I started sort of feeling the breath like coming in and like going out. And I sort of was like picturing like actual air like coming in, and picturing my lungs filling as then like it went out. And I remember like moving my hands a bit as I was doing this, but I could really picture like air coming in, filling, and then I started picturing my body. And of course, I've got an ileostomy bag, and I thought that that might come up. So once it went into the lungs, basically then it went into the, like I was picturing my lungs filling up with the air. And then I went down to like picturing my intestines and stuff, and picturing like the, you know, the hole that's there now that I haven't got a colon. So I just sort of sat with that for a little bit. It wasn't too uncomfortable. Again, I'm pretty good with feeling uncomfortable and being okay about it. And I expected it to come up. So I was like, it's cool. But still, that was a funny moment. And then what happened is I could sort of picture, you know, food going into the bag. I mean, I don't want to get into this too much, but basically it got to a point where I sort of felt like I confronted the bag head on, where like I just spent a moment of like seeing that area of my body where operations had happened and a bit of trauma had happened. And then I sort of just had this one-on-one moment where I just confronted the feeling of like accepting my body, accepting it the way it is, and sort of almost relinking a bit of that trauma that had happened down there by just thinking about it and picturing it. It's really weird, but you know, it was slightly uncomfortable, but pretty therapeutic, I think. That was the only, like, quote unquote, slightly uncomfortable time in the first night. And then, you know, that was pretty much it. And then I was thinking, amazing, let's go for night 2, round number 2, we'll go deeper. And I was imagining everything that was going to happen. And yeah, it completely didn't work out that way. So night number 2, ayahuasca again, a full day to recover, to think about it, to contemplate, to journal, which is really important. And then the second night, I was expecting it to be the same again. And I was really excited. I was thinking this is going to be amazing. And my word, was it different. As soon as I even tasted the ayahuasca again, it just tasted even more bitter and even more harder to drink. And then I thought, oh God, this just, it was sort of like tasting an alcoholic drink when you just, you know, been drunk the night before. It just didn't sit right. And then half an hour in, I was sick. And I was like, oh dear, here we go. And it was pretty rough as well. And then, you know, being sick whilst you're, you know, on a psychedelic is pretty challenging, because, you know, you're seeing it differently and visions and stuff as you're being sick. So that was pretty challenging. But then it was just really rough. The shaman said that it was more of a, instead of like a heady experience with the ayahuasca, it was more of a deeper rooted body experience, a different strain apparently. And I really felt that the visions were minimal. They're a tiny bit, but everything was in my body, like, and then it got quite bad. Like my body was like really tense, and it was starting to just like grip a bit and get tense. And then I noticed like I was like, God, and I just couldn't stop it. So like there was tension creeping into my body, and my body didn't feel that comfortable. And then it turned into like a slight shake, a slight, like, just a slight out of the tension, my mouth and stuff. And I was just so restless in my body. I just could not sit still. I was fidgeting and twitching. And I just thought, this was about 40 minutes in, and obviously the ayahuasca lasts about 4 or 5 hours. So I just thought, oh my word, this is going to be rough. And I just knew straight away that this is not going to be like the night before. And yeah, it was really bad. Like I had to get someone to come over and sort of comfort me for a second, because I was like literally like shaking like that. I was literally just had a moment where I was just slightly, just shaking with the tension though. So it was like, it's almost like if something was so tense and then it begins to shake because it's just holding on. So yeah, that was a rough time, and someone came over, was beautiful with me, just consoled me. And you know, just even at that point, even like someone just putting their hand on you, just on your shoulder, or just a comforting touch at that moment can be really beautiful. And it was. And then I got better, But still, it was the same for 4 hours. It was rough. I was in my body. I was just so... There was this nervous energy in the body that was just like trying to get out and stuff. And then also some of the thoughts that were coming through that were reflected of me were a bit more on the negative side. So that was like, it was just a harder, and obviously 4 hours. So it's like, it's not like 15 minutes and then you're gone. You know that when you've taken it, that you're going to be on this ride for 4 hours here and you can't get off. That's the thing. But I was around a beautiful set of people. I always felt comfortable. I was never worried. I'm pretty chilled. I've been through enough stuff. So even when I was at the point where I was like literally shaking with tension and couldn't stop moving and jittering around, I still, under it all, knew I was absolutely fine. I was more still slightly laughing as well, just from the experience, because I was thinking, God, this is so different to the night before. So I was still trying to make joke of it, even though like it was rough. I was still trying to sort of make a joke of it and be like, you know, just couldn't believe that how different it was than the first night. And the worst it ever got was where I was fidgeting so much that I was moving around that I was sitting up against a wall. I actually banged my head a couple of times, which people must have thought he's losing it. But like, it was just a nervous flinch, not nervous, a physical tension flinch. So that's really how it went with that. It was a really uncomfortable 4 or 5 hours for me. And I was a bit, you know, a bit disappointed, a bit worried about it. And then I spoke to the shaman, the main leader of the ceremony, and they said to me that it was fine and it was normal, and actually it was expected. Because I'd had such a euphoric high the first night, you know, it's unlikely that you're going to stay at that level, and actually things balance out a bit. So I was a bit worried about it at the time. I felt a bit bad. I felt a bit down. I felt a bit disappointed by that second night. But then after I talked to the shaman, the leader, they assured me that it was normal, it was to be expected, and that ayahuasca works, you know, in a way that it might not feel comfortable there and then in the moment, but months down the line, you'll notice the benefits. So I just, you know, took it for what it is, and it was still a brilliant experience. So that was my 2 nights overall, a crazy time. And that's my story, but it's going to be very different for you if you decide to do it. And like I say, take full responsibility, full research. It's not for everyone at all. But if it does feel like it's right for you, then it's worth doing some more research at the very least. So that's it. So how have I been since? Well, you know what? I think I've been a lot better. I think I've been more authentic in the way I've been talking, expressing myself. And even if you look at my YouTube channel, if you look at the content I was putting out not so long ago in terms of months, and you look at the content I've been putting out a few weeks ago and recently, it's been completely different actually. And I feel like I've occasionally watched myself back, and when I'm sort of, you know, because I edit these videos, and I'm thinking like, oh, I do seem a little different, a little bit more authentic, a little bit more real. And obviously in this time as well, I made that shift of coaching people on maybe just singing to coaching people on more personal development and stuff. And I think that some of that came about from the ayahuasca retreat. Now, it's not that it was exclusively down to the ayahuasca retreat, but the ayahuasca retreat to me, because I meditate, felt like sort of meditation, intense meditation, where sometimes you can be more authentic after that. You can have different ideas about your future. So it's not a quick fix, it's not a magic pill, but if you're already doing the introspection, if you're already doing the sort of spiritual work a little bit, it can be just a bit of a boost to put you in the direction that you were probably always going to go into anyway. So that's my feelings about it. I don't regret it at all. And, you know, I'd probably do it in the future. And yeah, I think I definitely would actually. I think maybe a once a year type thing could be good, just to, you know, once a year check in with myself, check in with my values, check in with who I am, and go into the ayahuasca not in a recreational way at all, obviously, but in a way of like contemplation about where I'm at in my life, what is most meaningful to me, how can I be best serving to others. You know, these questions, if you're slightly on your mind and then you do something like that ayahuasca, it will tap straight into those answers and it will sort of show you. It's very clever like that. So that's it for now. There's my experience. Like I say, take responsibility, do loads of research, and don't feel like you should or shouldn't be doing anything in life, whether it be ayahuasca or anything. You have to do what's right for you. And you have to just know yourself, your own situation, your medical situation, the group you're in. There's so many factors to it. So if you're hesitant, I wouldn't ever do it on a whim. I would be very planned and very meticulous about when you do it, and do lots of research. So that's it for today's one-off, a bit crazy episode here. But please click the like button for me if you enjoyed this video. Check out my website, christopherdavidmitchell.com, for coaching and more courses coming up that I'm going to be bringing out. Some of which will be ever changed. You know, courses and coaching will be ever changed from every insight I gather along the journey. And ayahuasca is just one small part of a whole journey that hopefully I'll be going through. But yeah, share this with a friend if it's going to help them at all, or if they're unsure. And keep in touch. I hope it helped. I hope it was a fun episode. And I'll see you soon.